Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about quadrilaterals. Now, quadrilaterals are polygons, and they are polygons that have 4 sides and 4 angles. If you've got 4 sides and you've got 4 angles and you're a polygon, you're a quadrilateral. When I look at the measure of the angles of a quadrilateral and I add them together, I get 360 degrees. All quadrilaterals equal 360 degrees. So it doesn't matter what kind of quadrilateral. If there are 4 angles and it's quadrilateral, when I add W, X, Y, and Z, my 4 angles, I will get 360 degrees. Now, the overarching term for 4-sided figure is quadrilateral. And quadrilateral can then be classified by sides and angles, kind of just like triangles, except with an extra side now we have more classifications. So my first classification is 4 sides, 4 angles. Got 4 sides, got 4 angles, you've got a quadrilateral. But now let's look at what happens if, when I look at that quadrilateral, I have a pair of parallel lines. So my first quadrilateral that I want to look at is a trapezoid. And notice in the trapezoid, and on your notes you have the tally marks. That tells you that those sides are parallel. So a trapezoid is a quadrilateral with 1 pair of parallel lines. So 1 pair of parallel lines. That's a trapezoid. Now, if you look over and then notice that a trapezoid is a quadrilateral. Now, if I look at the next classification, I'm going to look at a quadrilateral, but this time I have opposite sides are parallel. And then not only are those opposite sides parallel, they're also equal. They're congruent. So a parallelogram is a quadrilateral because it has 4 sides and 4 angles, but it's also a trapezoid because it has at least 1 pair of parallel lines. What makes a parallelogram is that opposite sides are parallel and congruent. And remember that congruent means they're equal length. So opposite sides are parallel and congruent. In a parallelogram, the opposite angles are also congruent. So in my parallelogram, not only are my opposite sides congruent, but my opposite angles are congruent. Now, parallelogram can then be broken down into even more kind of restrictive definitions. So a parallelogram is a trapezoid is a quadrilateral. But now let's look at some more specific conditions. When I have a parallelogram in which, let me move this up here. Okay. When I have a parallelogram in which my opposite sides are parallel, but I have a special relationship between the 4 angles in this particular shape. And what's special about that is these are all right angles. And when I have a parallelogram that has 4 right angles, I have a rectangle. So again, a rectangle is a parallelogram. So that means that the opposite sides are congruent and parallel, but they also have 4 right angles. So again, a rectangle is a parallelogram. Parallelogram is a trapezoid is quadrilateral. So a rectangle is also a trapezoid. Rectangle is also a quadrilateral. if I get even more specific and I want to look at the side lengths, well, if you look next to that rectangle, I have the rhombus. And when I have a rhombus, again, a rhombus is going to be a parallelogram, but this parallelogram has 4 equal sides. So I'm not worried about right angles on a rhombus, but what I am looking for are 4 equal sides. So again, a rhombus is a parallelogram. It is not a rectangle, but it is a trapezoid. So a rhombus is a parallelogram with 4 equal sides. And then my last shape is my square. And my square kind of takes all of the characteristics of the rhombus and the rectangle. So again, a square is a parallelogram. It has 4 equal sides, and it has 4 right angles. So when I look at a square is a rectangle, and a square is a rhombus. It has the 4 equal sides, and it has the 4 right angles. A square is a parallelogram, a square is a trapezoid, a square is a quadrilateral. So you want to be careful when you begin classifying quadrilaterals, because you have to look at how I classify that quadrilateral and what makes it unique. All squares are quadrilaterals. All squares are trapezoids. All squares are parallelograms, rectangles, and rhombuses. But not all rhombuses are squares. Not all rectangles are squares. So look at how it kind of builds. My rectangle is both. Rhombus and a rectangle are parallelogram. Parallelogram is a trapezoid. Trapezoid is a quadrilateral. Make sure that you're filling in your Google form, and we'll talk about this a little bit more tomorrow.